This podcast includes graphic depictions of true crime cases and may contain explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Hey, this is Robin.
This is Jackie.
And this is Amanda.
And you are listening to We Saw the Devil, a podcast dedicated to horror, true crime, and all things macabre. If you want to follow us between shows, don't forget to check us out online. You can go to our website at www.wesawthedevil.com. You can follow us on Instagram at We Saw the Devil Podcast or on Twitter at We Saw the Devil. And if you want to follow specific co-hosts' social media, you can find the links to those on our website as well. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Saw the Devil. Today, we will be discussing all of the insane happenings from the last 4 days. And it seems like this case is pretty much just starting to split wide open, and we plan to go over absolutely everything. Before we get into it, obviously, there are a few housekeeping items. Number one, we are recording on Sunday, May 10th. Happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Happy Mother's Day.
Indeed.
Hope everyone is enjoying their day and taking the excuse to stay home and do nothing for Mother's Day finally.
It's been rough going, so treat yourself as much as you can from home.
And as you can probably hear, Robin is a bird mom.
I'm a bird mom.
And they're yelling at her.
They are.
Just like every kid would be.
Yeah, since we've been sitting here, they've learned this thing where they can pretend that they're dying and I'll come check on them. So we'll try our best, but you know, it's during the day, so unfortunately they're pretty active right now. So apologies in advance. Second is I am sick. I don't think it's coronavirus. I guess anything is possible. I mean, it's also possible that Chad dispatched like minions through his portal to come sabotage my respiratory system. I guess nothing is off the table. So.
I need to ask you a question to make sure that you're really Robin then, because
right?
You're probably just a demon, right?
Right? What would my name be? Like Nicola Schneider?
Oh, maybe
Nicole
it's related
Schneider.
To the other Schneider.
Yeah, exactly.
Fascinating.
So apologies. I can't help it. Also, upcoming news, back to the show. On Wednesday, we will be speaking with a longtime autopsy technician from a medical examiner's office to help us go over Alex's autopsy results in full. So what do the current results mean? Also, the burning question of the hour, which is there anything Alex could have been given or taken that would have killed him and caused the same symptoms, but not show up in an autopsy? So that episode will drop at the end of the week, so you will definitely not want to miss that.
For sure. I'm excited to be able to ask someone who works, in an office that does that for a living, questions about some of the things I've highlighted.
Yes, you will not want to miss that episode later this week. I briefly spoke with her and she kind of gave me a rundown on some of her, I guess, the possibilities that there are. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited.
And then this week, too, just to add, I did speak with a medical professional about the same documents. However, they do not work in, an examiner's office. So I got their take as well that I'll add to it.
We're covering the living and the dead.
Of course, yeah. Both sides.
Yeah, getting the scoop on both sides. So yeah, Amanda, do you want to talk about our Patreon?
Yeah, so patrons, we love you. I just actually put in the mailbox your goodies for this month. So that is on its way. And then I do want to do our shout outs. So big shout outs to our new patrons, Christy, Leanne, and Kathleen. We super appreciate your support. And then our police detectives are Michelle, Nikki, Shauna F., William, and Derek. Our forensic detectives are Michelle and Amy. And then our private investigators or executive producers are Ian, Kathleen, Iris, Shauna S., Christy, and Leanne. So again, we very much appreciate your support. I love, writing the postcards every month for you guys. It's a lot of fun. And then our discussions have been awesome in the Patreon only group.
I know. I've been really excited.
Yeah, so I look forward to reading all of your guys' comments on there and what you guys think about the case. It's fun to discuss.
Thank you very much to our Patreon. Again, if you want to subscribe to the show or support us, you can do that at patreon.com/We Saw the Devil. Also, YouTube. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. We have some amazing things on the horizon for YouTube there. Again, We Saw the Devil. And you can go to our website, wesawthedevil.com, and get links to all of our social media. Don't forget to titty slap that follow button across the board. Instagram is relatively new, so feel free to follow us. And we have a true crime, like on this day thing that we do on Instagram. So I picked basically a crime that happened on this day. So you'll definitely want to follow that on Insta if you haven't. Do you have anything else?
No, there was a lot of stuff this last week. There's so much going on.
You forgot, Amanda. The countdown.
Oh my goodness, how could I forget?
I know. Guys, just so you know, we have until Armageddon. There's 74 days, 6 million seconds, 106,000 minutes, 1,776 hours, 74 days, 10 weeks, 4 days. We're almost there.
Almost there. And what you're referring to is the end of the world per Chad Daybell.
Yes.
You can join that Facebook event too for the end of the world.
So onward to this insane week that we had. Let's start with, do you want to start with the television interviews and news segments?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I did this week, right? Like trying to catch up on all of these interviews. And I appreciate that, all these news outlets are talking with everyone. That's awesome. But I feel like it's the same interview over and over and over again. Right.
And these people, why did they suddenly pick this week? I mean, they've been relative hermits and silent on this case. And then all of a sudden, it's like, we're going to come out and say the same thing on 12 different shows.
Right. So we have interviews from Summer and from Janis Cox, which is Lori's sister and mother. And they actually, the first thing I saw about them was CBS This Morning did a clip about 48 hours, right? It was like, I think a 3-minute clip. And then from there, it was like, tune in to 48 hours this weekend. And then CBS is like, we got this. We got the same interview and we're going to put it out right now.
Yeah.
So I was like, and they're, you could tell they did it, I'm guessing the same day, or maybe they only have nice blue clothes that they wear to interviews. I don't know. But it was confusing. You have to look at who's interviewing them because it almost looks like the same interview twice.
Obviously, Amanda, they were wearing their gang colors.
Oh my gosh. So, yes, 48 Hours did do an interview. However, I guess they've postponed airing it, probably because the other network did it before them. I don't know. And then CBS, Morgan Lowe, I hope I'm saying his last name correctly. I think I am. He did it for CBS 5 as well. But then he also one-upped them a bit and got an interview with Melani and Ian as well. So, lots of interviews. Do you want to touch on the weird post from the law office of Robert P. Jarvis?
Oh my God. Okay. Robert P. Jarvis is basically an attorney for the family. And he put out a Facebook post and it says, he put this out on May 4th. Watch CBS 48 Hours this weekend for a better look at the family dynamics and the, quote, other side to the missing children story. Local channels 3 and 5 will be airing a short spot the night before. To be clear, we do not represent Lori Vallow Daybell. We represent a few of her family members who want their side set forth and who have been attacked in the media in relation to court-child custody battles. And then the interesting part. We were a little disappointed that NBC Dateline chose to take the sinister route when it had so much information that shed light against that aspect. We are still working to get the truth out there. The news agencies don't always portray or look for the truth. The case is certainly one that raises eyebrows and makes you go, we hope for the best.
That is a new way of like siding with your client, right? To like post interviews on Facebook, and I don't know, it just seemed very almost not petty, but just not professional, I think, right?
I think it's funny, like an attorney literally posted things that make you go, And what's even funnier is that this dude, Robert P. Jarvis, is actually a criminal defense attorney. Lori doesn't even have a criminal defense attorney. Lori, who's sitting in jail, doesn't even have a fucking criminal defense attorney, but yet the family hired one. I'm like,
they're
okay,
ready.
They're ready. I guess they're ready and waiting.
I like that he said that, right? And then last night he posted, CBS 48 Hours has postponed the airing of the story until next week. Like, he was like, watch it this weekend. It's going to be crazy. And it's like, oh, never mind. They canceled it. So, yeah, if you want to look at his Facebook, it is Law Office of Robert P. Jarvis. And he'll keep you up to date with 48 Hours, I guess.
He certainly will.
everyone was just mad because they were I guess they started watching the episode of 48 Hours and it wasn't the Vallow episode. And they're like, what the hell? And he's like, oh, wait, LOL, sorry, next week. But anyways, let's talk about the ones that actually did happen this week then. So CBS 5, you got your shit together.
Yeah.
So there were, like I said, there was one with Summer Cox, or not Cox. Delete that. So there's one with Summer and with Janis. Again, that's Lori's sister and mother.
Mm-hmm.
First thoughts. Janis does not. Well, I feel so bad. Well, I've had people message me that too, and I thought it was hilarious.
I pride ourselves that we do not tear other women down and that we don't make fun of people, but I feel confident right now because it pretty much has been confirmed that Janis also got into Chad Daybell. Like, she was reading, and listening to his podcast. At this point, I feel like it's safe to say I was so distracted by her eyeliner. She's not aging well. Her eyeliner is bad. It's like Ray Charles put it on in the middle of the night. And furthermore, both she and Summer were so smarmy. Like, initially, when I watch all of these interviews, I immediately pick up on their body language. Open, closed, their language, how they're speaking and overall demeanor. And none of these people are normal.
So when I first saw Janis, just the way that she talked and how she opened the interview, you know who it reminded me of? If you've seen Arrested Development, I think of her as Lucille Bluth. I don't know if you got that vibe, but that's the vibe I get from her.
I did not pick up on that vibe, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, it started with Janis just like looking at Summer and she's like, so we have a goal and we're just going to do our goal. Mm-hmm. Tell the truth. And you're like rolling your eyes so far. Like, no, you're not, but sure.
It's like, what in the grade B Maury Povich is this?
Exactly. Yeah. And then, Summer tries to be all sweet and she's like, I just want people to soften their hearts towards Lori. And I don't know, her and Lori speak in the same way. Mm-hmm, do you get that? Like,
yeah.
They're so similar. It's creepy. Then Janis said, Lori said she's not going to be able to tell me everything, right? Like, so he asked pretty much like what's going on, and that she had some major fears that were real to her. And I was like, real to her? Does that mean that they're not real fears, like weird zombies and end of the world stuff, or what?
Not to interrupt, and this is I want people to pick up on that and think about that, because this theme, right, continues into all the other interviews, that Lori was the victim, that Lori was being threatened, mm-hmm. that Lori had fears. Continue.
Yeah, well, and it's just the way that she said major fears that are real to her. And you're like, why would you say that? If you said like they were valid fears, I'd be like, my sister is scared for her life, or sorry, my daughter is scared for her life.
Yeah.
Or, she had some legit fears is the way I would say it. But she's like, real to her? That just seemed very strange. Like, they're not real.
It did. She almost phrased it as if she was talking about a child, who was scared of an imaginary friend. Like,
exactly. So that I picked up on that and I was like, why would you say that? I don't know. It just came out weird. And then Janis was like, I spoke to one of Lori's friends, I want to say in Hawaii. And my advice was for her to take a picture of the children, or to tell, Lori to take a picture of the children with today's newspaper and send it to the police. Like, that'll solve everything.
This isn't an Al-Qaeda kidnapping.
Well, and also, isn't it proven that they didn't make it to Hawaii? Like, there's no, you do have to, you can't walk to Hawaii. So you couldn't take a car.
Yeah.
They had to get there some way, so there's no plane tickets or, boat tickets that I think anyone has been able to find.
They haven't been seen since Idaho.
Right. Summer mentioned that Charles sent threatening texts to Lori, too, including, your end is coming soon. She's the one that told Alex to go stay at Lori's house when Charles was coming over. Mm-hmm. And she was like, I thought it would deter from trouble. And, if he hadn't been there, it would have been a completely different outcome. I don't know. Like, if he was deterring from trouble, why was Lori also starting trouble?
Right.
And again, I'm just going off of what I've read. I obviously was not there. I don't know what actually happened. But the way that it sounds and what I've understood about the situation is Lori took his phone, right? When he went back in to get it. I feel like he was just actually going to leave with JJ and it would have been fine. But she took his phone and wouldn't give it back. And then that's what...
She escalated the situation. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I don't think it was self-defense. That's just my personal theory. But yeah, she pissed him off. So like, if Alex was there to, you know, stop the trouble from happening, why was she making trouble? Not that anyone should die over a stupid phone. That's completely ridiculous. But why'd she do that? Janis laughed when Morgan said, you know, it's thought to be, or Alex is thought to be the family hitman, and she thought it was hilarious. Oh, she commented on how he wasn't perfect, but he definitely didn't have the intensity of a hitman.
Was it just me, or does Janis in particular laugh at the most inappropriate things?
I think she was just laughing because it's so comical thinking of her son being a hitman. Because, and you know, if on paper and like, I don't know, the videos on Facebook of him doing like, what was it, Looney Tunes voices, and just, he was very silly. It does, I guess, sound comical, but then also when you see all the other weird stuff he was involved in, then you're like, no. And
his letters to his friend and trying to get, like, I know. And then he went to jail for assault to begin with. So, you know,
Right.
It seemed to me like her mother just laughed, and every time that a question would paint her or a family member in a poor light, she would just, you know, and it's kind of like, no, lady. These are some serious allegations.
And Summer did mention, too, that she had texted with Tylee on September 24th on her birthday. And Morgan's like, well, do you know that was actually her? And she's like, I have no way to know it was Tylee, but I believe it was.
Oh, my God.
And it's just, you know, if you believe your sister 1,000%, wouldn't you be like, my sister wouldn't do that. My sister wouldn't speak for her daughter. But she says, I have no way of knowing that. I don't know. It just seems like she's also up in the air. If I texted my niece, you know, I feel like I wouldn't have any reason to believe my sister was texting for her, you know? So, very strange.
I can't help but think that these people are watching the same news broadcasts and reading the same articles that we are. So, you know, Colby was especially vocal and forthright initially that he could tell when Tylee wasn't Tylee, you know, texting, even down to the color of the emojis and the usage of the emojis. So I feel like Summer, if she had in fact texted Tylee or been close to Tylee previously, she would have seen a difference in communication there. So I feel overall that the surfacing of the family this week is not coincidental and it's not accidental, like at all. Like this is a planned PR stunt from the family as a whole.
Right. I think so. And it's just, it was a very strange time for them to start speaking out. A lot of people say, or I've seen some theories online that it's because they knew the autopsy was coming out. So they wanted to basically like save face in a way and just be like, yep, see, everything's fine. Oh, look. And the autopsy came out just fine, you know, all at the same time. Still don't buy it though. So Morgan then asked, you know, the obvious question, where they thought the kids were. And Summer says she doesn't know, but Lori's been through a lot and she's being threatened and followed. And then he's like, okay, who's threatening? I kind of like the way that he's like, okay, and who?
Right.
And she's like, well, Kay and Kay's brothers, because they're upset about Charles's death. And I still have a hard time thinking that it's that side of the family. Like, Kay's the one that got this into play, right? And not talking to JJ caused her to be curious about where he was. And the fact that Alex lied, you know, when police came and said, oh, he's with Kay, and Kay's the one that called. If they were having such like a big battle with them, why would Alex not know about it and say, oh, he's with Kay, everything's fine. I don't know. It seems very strange, because if it was like this big debate with Kay and Kay's brothers, you would think all of her family would be filled in on it when stuff was actually happening.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And, you know, all the speculation from Christopher Perrette too and other people is that, you know, Lori, if Lori produces the children, then the state of Idaho can take them from her. Stupid as it is, show a picture of the newspaper beside them. Like, prove that they're even alive, you know? Right. It's just, there's so many different aspects of this. And what I don't understand, and I will not understand, is how her family, my family, loves me very much. And if I had children that were gone and they couldn't get a hold of and had no proof of them still being alive, they would not go onto a major national network and be like, but I have no idea, but I know they're fine. Like, they wouldn't do that. They would be like, where are those kids? They'd be like making cupcakes in a, you know, Albertsons and Portland, being like, where are the children?
Right. I feel like my family would kick my ass. Like, it's not normal. Nothing's normal.
There's something more at play here. Like, I feel like they're all in on this.
Yeah, and I understand, like, not all families are tight-knit, and not all families can be honest with each other and speak their minds. Sure, like, it sounds kind of like that, like, where they don't actually know each other very well. It's just the way I interpret it, I should say. But still, just, if you're such this loving grandmother and loving aunt, you would be like, you would do anything to find the kids, and you would be at, I mean, I would be in Idaho, you know, if my sister was in jail, and I'd be there every day. So where's kids? Oh, visiting hours or what time? Where's kids? Where's my niece? It's just ridiculous. I don't know. Maybe they know, right? Maybe they know and they just have to play like they don't know. Who knows? But it does just seem weird to me. I understand that Kay, yeah, she has every right to be upset and very upset that her brother died. But I don't think that she would want to put the kids in any sort of harm because of her brother, because her brother loved the kids. So that's just my thoughts. Morgan did ask, do you think she's in a cult? And they both immediately said no. And then again, like, I like the way he speaks, like, you know, how he asks the questions. And then he talks about, well, you know, people follow Chad. Like, people think of Chad like a messiah. And then Summer goes on to say, well, I've only met him once, and I don't know him very well. And people are entitled to their own religious beliefs, and talks about, you know, freedom of religion and all of that. And then she's like, I've never heard of Chad self-proclaiming to be a prophet or anything else, or trying to get people to follow him. And you're like, well, isn't that kind of proven? It was in a book, I believe, right? Where he said he was a prophet, or where did that first come up?
I think he played with the theme in his books, but the preparing of people, I think that's where he kind of solidified it. And then as he created his Dungeons and Dragons worksheet and character sheets on people, he realized then that he could cast himself as this messiah type of figure by being the brother of Jesus?
Yeah, whatever he is. But yeah, I doubt he meets Summer and he's like, hi, I'm a prophet. You know,
yeah.
He has to kind of play it cool the first time. And if she only met him one time, then I don't expect him to try to get her to follow him the first time, you know? So he also asked, did Chad brainwash her? And they, again, quick to say no, said it's like not even possible. But then they go on to say, well, I didn't even know they got married. I found out about it on the news. And then this is where I thought it was kind of weird. Like, their dynamic between Summer and Janis kind of split for a second. Mm-hmm. And Summer was like, we've never even been invited to Lori's weddings. And that wasn't unusual for us. And then Janis, like, steps in. And she's like, oh, no, we were invited. We just didn't go to any.
Right.
And then Summer, like, almost, not under her breath, but just the way she said it was funny. She's like, well, I've never been invited to one, but that's fine.
Yeah, so very, 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 very close-knit family. Clearly.
I mean, she gets married all the time, though, so it's probably just, they don't want to spend the money on going to all these weddings.
Right.
But it just the dynamic there you could see was, like, different for a second, because before, again, my interpretation of it, but Janis kind of spoke for Summer quite a bit. She kept saying, well, we think, we do this. Mm-hmm. And then that's where Summer was just like, well, I wasn't invited, so I don't know. I saw it change right there.
And did you see Janis look at her after Summer said that? It was like pissed. Shooting daggers.
Mm-hmm. Something I found sweet, but then also it just made me really sad, is when Janis mentioned that JJ would always say just mom. Like, he only wanted just mom. And then she also said, she's like, the fact that they're separated, is sad. Hold on, let me read it.
Well, everyone says that Lori was just like the most doting, loving mother to JJ. Like everyone who witnessed it.
Mm-hmm. But then she gets to Rexburg and calls him a drug baby. So
yeah, and gets rid of his dog and
right. Well, yeah. So she does remark on the fact she's like she doesn't like the fact that they are separated and doesn't know the reason. But then she says it could be for a wonderful reason and maybe she's protecting them from something terrible. I can't comprehend what terrible thing would be after a child.
Unless they're talking about some sort of spiritual demon or zombie, they surely cannot be referencing the Woodcocks, because God forbid if a child actually gets care, love, and attention from a loving grandparent.
Well, right. And what if, and just to, I don't believe this, but let's say Kay and Larry are up to no good, right? They want the kids for other reasons. Okay, that's still, I don't see them, hunting for them at night. I don't see them doing crazy stuff. If it is some sort of just like revenge plot, let it play out in court then. Because if you're just this perfect mother, you shouldn't have anything to worry about.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm being too literal, but I mean, I have no fear that someone will come and just try to take custody of my kids.
No.
No, that's insane. So, I don't know. So, this is a quote from Summer during the interview. And she said, if something has happened to those children, it is not by her doing, so Lori's. And it is not by her permission to do something. There's no way that she did something to them. The weird thing that I noticed is the way that she said those children. Again, if it was my sister's kids, right, I would be like, there's no way she did something to my niece and my nephew, to like put a tie to them, to like claim ownership of them. That's my family. And the way that she called it those children is just strange to me.
Very isolating.
Yeah, it's not the way that you refer to people in your family. You always go, my cousin, my brother, my sister, my mother. You don't say those kids. I would, any kids in my family, I would never call them those kids. So it seemed like, like you said, distancing herself from it. And I don't know. The whole interview was just very strange. I did like, obviously, the way that he asked the questions. But you could tell, even from the beginning, that it was already thought about. It was staged, in a sense, the way that Janis said, we're just going to do our goal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Speculation, obviously, on my part. I feel like I can't for the life understand how they don't know where the children are, but yet simultaneously claim to be such a loving and close-knit family. And that, well, that's Lori's business. Lori has her reasons. Okay.
Right.
None of it makes sense. But yeah, I call bullshit on all of it. And lest we not forget that Lori has been calling Summer Shiftlet quite frequently from jail.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Which is not coincidental.
Well, remember, it's recorded. She can't tell me anything. We'll get to that too. But, well, actually, yeah, we'll talk about that real quick. So the little clip from CBS this morning is also with Janis and Summer. Different interview. You have to try to keep them separate. Different person interviewing them. But the one thing that came out of that clip that I noticed is when Janis says she spoke with JJ on October 1st. And then the reporter's like, she provided CBS News with the phone bill of the alleged call. And, it's just the phone number and how long it was. But the phone number I will say that she spoke to, or, that called, or, she called, I don't remember. But the phone number does match the one in the dog ad from JJ's Service Dog.
Yes.
But again, just a number that you spoke with for a while, that doesn't prove that she spoke with JJ. Mm-mm. If they FaceTimed and she, took a screenshot of it, I'd believe it then. But no, just a phone bill is not going to make me think anything. And then when they said, where can the kids be? That's where Summer remarks, well, she can't tell us because she's in jail.
Everything's recorded. I hope I'm pleasantly surprised, but none of this is making sense.
No, and it's just like, if my sister was in the news in Hawaii, I would have reached out to her in Hawaii, or I would have, had an excuse to go to Hawaii to kick her ass.
Yep.
So... no. Again, or the other side of it, they know exactly what's going on. They know exactly where the kids are. They may even be helping with the kids, but they're just saying they don't know.
Yep.
We don't know. It's just the way that they come across is just very strange. And Janis does say she is positive beyond any doubt that she hasn't harmed the kids. And I honestly, if something did happen to the kids, I don't think it was Lori. I think it was Alex or Chad or someone else, not her.
I concur.
The other interview then with CBS was with Melani and Ian, and they've done a couple interviews this week too. And I won't go through every single thing with them. She did look a little less drugged this time, with CBS at least. Mm-hmm. She does say, I don't know where my cousins are. Her children, JJ and Tylee, like she had to like say who her cousins were. She looked very tense at that point. Also, when Ian spoke, you could tell she was like trying to watch her face a little. Yeah. Like she kind of looked mad for a second, and then you see her like almost jump up a bit. Mm-hmm. And then the part that caught my attention though is she moved out to Rexburg after her ex took her children, right? But then what about that text? So the text that was sent in October, the text doesn't specify, but the bottom shows 10/15, so October 15th. So I'm guessing it was like around the 14th. And that's the text where it refers to, I have made the decision to move to Boise, which she didn't move to Boise that I know of.
Yeah.
We'll need to create a new schedule for the kids. We can pay to go to mediation again or save the money by coming to a mutual agreement. I'm fine with whatever you decide. The kids can remain with you in Arizona. You would have to arrange for daycare. And then it's cut off. You have to click view all. And obviously I can't click on her phone or his phone.
Right.
And his response to whatever else she said was, seriously, 1 minute later. And her response, 5 minutes later, yes. So, and then he says, like, hold on. He says, why? How is that good for our kids? I don't understand. And, it continues that way. When are you moving? And she says, I'm planning to go next week. So it's just, what? If he took the kids and you're really fighting for your kids, why would you send your ex a text? Well, gotta go. Bye.
You can keep them.
Right. And if you really wanted custody of your kids, wouldn't you stay for at least a couple extra months to try to figure out a visitation schedule or, a way to actually see them? But I feel like I would never leave the state that my kid was in.
No. Ever. And then also, let's just say that for some reason she had she believed that she had a good reason to go to Idaho. Like, she could have stayed for a couple months, to acclimate the children into her leaving, spend time with them, explain to them, do what mothers should do. I mean, should have probably stayed in Arizona, but I digress, So it makes no sense. And I wish that we had the rest of the text message thread.
Yeah. We don't know what she said. It could have maybe taken a different turn or, what she planned on doing.
Yeah.
But by his responses to it makes me seem like no. Just the word seriously. So those texts are fairly old. I had to dig a while because it's been a while since we've talked about those texts. Mm-hmm. So that caught my attention. Just, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like that's a lie. And then she claimed more that Lori moved to Rexburg for the kids' safety again. So, that same thing that we've been hearing all week. And that's why it wasn't weird that she didn't see them when she moved to Idaho. Basically that they were being kept somewhere safe, maybe, mm-hmm. or I don't know her, what she meant by that. And she said she just saw their stuff, but not them. Lori said that they were safe and they were doing everything they can to keep them from people that are trying to harm them. All right, couple questions there. Who would harm children? I feel like Kay wasn't out to kill the children.
No.
So what possibly could harm the children? And then also, if I was trying to keep my kid from something harmful, he would not leave my sight.
Yeah.
So like, where are they? At one point, I forget what interview, but she said, I think it was the Dateline interview where she said Tylee was with friends for a month?
Right.
What kid goes to their friend's house for a month? And then also, if they moved to Rexburg because it was, the safest place for the kids, why would you let your kid be gone for a month?
Right.
And like, why as an outsider would you be like, well, is she safe if I haven't seen her in a month? Is she cool? Just very strange. Mm-hmm. What I interpreted from the way that Ian spoke this time is that and again, this is my interpretation, not anything they said, but the way that he talked about the events, like the line of events, it sounded like he was just trying to keep Melani out of the insanity. Like, you know, he gets involved with this family. For some reason, he marries her. She lets out a lot of crazy wedding night. And then he's like, oh my gosh, trying to like understand all the crazy. And then he's like, this is weird. Oh, there's missing kids. I have kids. I don't want my kids to be missing. You know, like that's horrible. Sure, I'll work with law enforcement, but I don't think Melani's that crazy. So let's try to get her out of it. And then when it wasn't a cut and dry case and it wasn't going to end anytime soon, it wasn't going to be, oh, found the kids. Everything's fine. Let's go be together, Melani. Then he was like, oh, shoot, she's going to find out.
Yeah.
Confessed to Melani. And then now he's just like Melani's puppet.
You know, I'm torn between that because that makes the most sense. And again, that's taking the documents that were found on his computer, right? That supposedly that his ex found. That's taking those at face value and believing that he actually himself wrote those and she found it. That's the only element of like concern, bias that we have that he was concerned about Melani is those documents, which it hasn't been confirmed that he in fact didn't write those. It could have been a ruse the entire time. You know, they could have been working together. I'm still not completely sold on Ian because it doesn't make sense that Melani would move to, you know, Rexburg and then relatively soon meet Ian and then they get married immediately. You know, Ian is also in the Mormon church, so on and so forth. So we don't know that Ian's not connected in all of this somehow. He did marry Melani the day after Zulema and Alex got married. You know, so and Zulema 100% is part of Chad's group. So I don't know. Ian, and you know, speculation on my part purely, Ian for myself is not outside the cast of characters on this. Like, I'm not sold that he was just this good old country boy who happened to fall in love with the girl who comes from a batshit insane family and a cult. Like, I'm not sold on him being Mr. Nice Guy. But regardless, he is 100% her puppet now.
Right. Well, just the progression of him, too. You know, when you first see him at the beginning of some of these from a while back, he's fine. And then now he's just like slowly slouching and slowly just like looking more and more sad.
He looks like an old man at the mall that's waiting on his wife to come out of a store. Like, you know, the ones who sit on the benches and they just look so fucking depressed and they're just sitting there slouched and waiting. Like, that's how he looks.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him, but at least, you know, she was a little more peppy in this interview. And then there was one we'll talk about later that was released this morning. So again, this is May 10th, where she laid a little bit more off the drugs. Again, speculation. I don't know what she's on, but she just looked crazy.
This is my favorite. Today's Nate Eaton's the newest interview is my favorite out of all of them.
Well, yeah. Well, his progression now in today's, he's just slumped over and just like half awake, and she's just like, you know, firing and like using her hands to talk, and she's smiling and laughing, and she's a normal, or not normal, but her mannerisms are more fluid and like, you know, someone not on some sort of sedative.
That's true.
But again, they talk about a little bit of like, why do you think they were in danger? And she just says, well, I didn't worry till after the welfare check. And then I didn't have contact with them. Like Lori, I'm guessing. She also mentions that Lori was getting threats again. Brings up the accusations about the shooting. She also says that Brandon had mentioned that he was adamant that Alex Cox had shot him. It was just strange the way that she said it because, you know, if it was me, I'd be like, oh, my ex is adamant that my uncle shot him for some reason. But she calls him Alex Cox. And it just feels like she was reading a script, or I don't know. It's just weird family dynamic. My favorite question, though, is Morgan says something like, bad thing after bad thing keeps happening, and the one thing in common is Lori. How can she not be involved in something bad here? And her voice like changed and became not like shaky in a sense, and like, oh, I wasn't ready for this question is the way that I interpreted that. She also I think the last big thing, or not even big thing, but she brought up that Charles was working with Brandon and Kay now, and that the media isn't bringing up other things like, why is no one asking that Charles had a $2 million policy on Lori? And then says things like zombies are being covered because it's more exciting than the truth, then just tell the truth. I feel like the truth would be more exciting. I want to know what happened.
It's true.
Zombies are just crazy.
Yeah, no one's finding that exciting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a little, it's like new, you know? I've never heard of someone claiming someone to be a zombie outside of a movie. So, I don't know. It's just very strange. So, let's talk about some of the documents before we get to another interview, since there's been so many. I think this one was another creepy one.
The past lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was another document that was released this week from Chad Daybell to Lori Vallow, and it was sent on January 22nd of 2019, and it lists Lori's and JJ's multiple probations or past lives. And Justin Lum reports that the 5 redacted names on this document, because there's a list of people and their multiple probations, right? There are 5 redacted names on this, and he fears that they may not even know they're on the list.
That's scary. Could you imagine if your name was on one of like Chad's lists of crazy people?
Isn't it true that Cheryl Wheeler, Charles Vallow's, I believe she was his second wife, wasn't even aware until this hit the news, really, that she was included in the documents when he was rating people on Dark to Light? Like, and her children were on it. Like, that's terrifying.
I'd be very scared. Yeah. And, you know, who's after them, especially the ones that were labeled dark.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. Yeah, you're right. Like,
so,
especially finding out from the news.
So, like, my big thing with this document is, it's not even that important, but my big thing is that Chad, in one of his probations, thought that he was James the Just, who is Jesus's brother. He claims that Lori was the daughter of Jesus's older brother. So, you know, I'm not a, forensic genealogist, but I do believe that would make Chad her uncle.
Well, yeah, wasn't Lori Elena at one point?
Yes.
She married James the Just. So, sure.
Sure. I would just like to state for the record, though, that at some point in their probations, Chad was her uncle. So,
well, and JJ was also their kid, the son of James and Elena.
Yep.
So, a couple questions there. So, if JJ has been in their family forever, I guess, right? And he is light, why is he missing? And then also, wouldn't you want to know your daughter's past too, in a sense? You know, like, if you said this to Lori, wouldn't Lori be like, oh, and my other daughter, was she ever good? I don't know. Not saying that Tylee's bad in any way, shape, or form, but just the fact of what he had said.
My speculation is that Tylee, I mean, in our last episode, we discussed it quite a bit in depth too, about how Tylee has been having problems with Lori literally since she was at least 3 years old, right? And then the court therapist and whatnot even noted that she feels that Lori tried to manipulate Tylee, and that there was even resentment there that at that age. So I feel like Tylee had been strung along and forced into all these different situations and saw her mother probably for what she actually was. And I believe that caused a lot of conflict between Tylee and Lori. So I believe that Lori probably unloaded some of that on Chad, and Chad was like, oh, no, we can't have that. And then designated Tylee as dark, and then thought that because JJ was so small, was so young, and he did have some learning disabilities, as well as being autistic. Right. I truly believe that Chad believed that he could, manipulate or just kind of like deal with JJ, that JJ wouldn't be that big of a problem. And then I truly believe that once Chad kind of entered the picture in a more fully fleshed way, that he was like, no, this kid's going to get in the way of me and my
that's
hot new
probably
wife.
Exactly it.
But
I'm just saying, wouldn't she still want to know her past, like to know everything about her kids? Like, she asked for everything about her other family members and people that weren't even technically related to her. I just thought the curiosity would be out there.
Not necessarily. If Chad's already like put them down or whatever, maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe.
It doesn't seem like Lori at some point, and other family members, Annie Cushing, other people state that it was almost like a switch flipped for Lori. So maybe this was as her switch was flipping. Who knows?
Possibly. But yeah, it goes into who everyone was, or, JJ and Lori in past probations, I guess. And then James and Elena. And they had 7 children. 4 were sons and 3 were daughters. And one of the daughters was Melanie. And then one of the sons was JJ.
Mm-hmm.
And then the others are the ones that are blacked out. We don't know who they are, but one is one of the dream girls.
And also a tall high school quarterback.
Of all of the stuff happening, like, how does that have anything to do with anything?
I'm telling you, I swear to God that, like, Chad just, like, drops some magic mushrooms and then decides to... He probably fills the stuff out by getting, like, a Dungeons and Dragons setup, like, template and goes to town.
I want to see his trading cards.
Me too.
But yeah, it's another creepy little email. I mean, I don't know if he just sat down every day and he's like, well, time to write a freaky, creepy email today. I'm going to send it to Lori.
I wonder if he had any other women that he was doing this with.
That's an interesting question.
I wonder. Because, people, especially with, like, religious fervor, right? And that's what Chad did. And preparing people, he gave, like, little talks. He probably had his own little, like, Mormon fan club. You know what I mean? Like the prepper fan club type of thing. So, like, I wonder if he was doing this with any other woman. I digress.
Right. Well, so, yeah, trying to, like, change their thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
And kind of convert them to his outer delusional whatever you want to call it. Some people are saying he was trying to start a religion. Some are calling it a cult. Whatever the hell it was. It is not a typical religion.
His delusions of grandeur. Also, don't forget that he was a struggling writer, right? Like, he was making almost, like, no money at all. And don't forget the quote by the insufferable piece of shit, L. Ron Hubbard. Quote, "You don't get rich writing science fiction. If you want to get rich, you start a religion." So I find that quote to pretty much be pretty relevant.
It's true. Yeah. Again, if you want to check it out, Justin Lum had posted it, and you can see all the screenshots of all of it.
Yes. And then another document we got. Hey, but you don't have any really, like, big affidavits this week.
No, I didn't. I was kind of happy that I didn't have to read a bunch of court docs this week.
So the next document we have is a snippet from Charles Vallow's divorce document from February of 2019. And if you recall, Charles wanted Lori involuntarily committed to a mental health facility, and then she pretty much batted her eyelashes and got right out of that. The interesting part is this is actually from the document. Now, I'll read just because it's just like two, little passages, but mother is referencing Lori. Don't forget it's a court document, so the term mother is referencing Lori. Mother has recently become infatuated and at times obsessive about near-death experiences and spiritual visions. Mother has told father that she is sealed, eternally married, to the ancient Book of Mormon's prophet Moroni, and that she has lived numerous lives on numerous planets prior to this current life. Mother also believes that she was married to James the Just in a past life and also lived as Mary French in the 1800s, who was Joseph Smith Jr.'s natural grandmother. Mother also informed father that she is a translated being who cannot taste death, sent by God to lead the 144,000 into the millennium. Mother believes that she is receiving spiritual revelations and visions to help her gather and prepare those chosen to live at the New Jerusalem after the Great War, as prophesied in the Book of Revelations.
Well, that explains it.
Just whoa.
No, she is from another planet. That explains everything.
Nanu. Because, like, this is her delusion. I mean, this is some pretty delusional shit, and that goes back to February of 2019 in the divorce document. So, I mean, I feel like we have this moment in every episode, but I feel so bad for Charles Vallow.
Yeah. And especially that made it to a court document, like, he had to tell someone, why are you getting divorced? Well, my wife's from another planet, and she is now a translated being, and I'm not, so I don't think it's going to work anymore.
Yep. So
imagine that conversation, though. Could you imagine being that lawyer and just staring at him?
As he comes into your office and sits down, and the divorce attorney is like, so how may I help you today? And normally they're just, going over visitation and things like that. And he's like, well, sit down. Moroni, prophet from another planet. She can't taste death. She's going to lead 144,000 people. Like,
that poor guy, he's probably like, well, I never thought that, science fiction would play a role in divorce court, but
yeah.
Okay. So that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? I did read some court documents this week.
Oh, really? The defamation?
Yeah.
I forgot
I
about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have that right next to me. Actually, I don't know why I didn't notice. Not only did I play with court docs, I also played with medical docs. So.
Oh.
But yes, there was a lawsuit, Brandon Boudreaux, defamation lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. Do you want to start it? And then I'll do my notes on it.
Sure. So Brandon Boudreaux's lawyers filed a complaint against Melanie's lawyers, Robert Jarvis and Garrett Smith, their wives, and Black and White Partnerships and Corporations. And more or less, Jarvis replied to that defamation lawsuit, "We deny the allegations." And do you want to go through the numbers in
Just a
the
couple.
document? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through all of it. It's a little lengthy, but... Oh, so number 23, they call him Mr. Bordeaux again. And they spelled Pawlowski strange. So it's just funny that, it's his lawyers doing this and they still can't even spell his last name.
I refuse to believe. And this is a side note because I'm actually seeing people talk about the misspellings in different Facebook groups and stuff. And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. Lawyers do this all the time. I would like to state for the record that if you're going to put yourself in like $300,000 to $500,000 worth of debt for schooling, you should at least know how to spell a client's name.
Well, in this document, it's spelled several different times in different fashions.
Yeah.
But when he's talking about the shooting, he calls him Mr. Bordeaux. And basically says, the shooting was to get the life insurance proceeds to go to Pawlowski, Melanie, in order to fund the religious group. Number 41 talks about what they're upset about, pretty much. So he discusses the first press release where they say that Brandon victimized women, the dark pornography, the homosexual affairs, and says Brandon has failed to tell investigators that his family, has covered up child molestation, drug addiction, kidnapping, assaults, and even killings.
Yeah.
And a closer look will reveal many possible sources to who might have shot him.
Oh my God.
And I was like, okay, sure. Like, let's say someone else was after him. But would they too know how to get a hold of Charles's car?
Right.
After he was already dead?
And didn't Brandon claim that he actually physically saw with his own eyes Alex in the back seat area of that Jeep?
I don't know if maybe I've read that. I don't know. I just know that he ID'd the vehicle is all I can remember.
I heard I saw that Brandon claims that he saw Alex Cox himself in the back of the Jeep, which indicates that someone else was driving it. And that's why there's been so much speculation on who could have been driving that Jeep, if it could have been Melanie herself.
Interesting. I'll have to look for that document again. Tried to go back for all these documents because there's been so much new stuff. Even finding that text, I think, took me like a half hour just going through so many documents. The document continues with all the false statements in the press. And so if you want to continue reading all of the false statements and what they're going after, it starts on number 49. So just a typical, or I shouldn't say typical, but defamation lawsuit. And just all the things that they feel is incorrect that has been portrayed.
So a couple of random news pieces before we get into the topic of the hour, which is Alex Cox's autopsy results returning. And again, I apologize, guys. If you're just now reaching this point, I am sick. I know I sound terrible, so I apologize if it is grating on anybody's nerves. It's grating on mine. So the Garrett Smith, which is one of the family's lawyers, and by family I mean Melanie, Janis, Zulema, that side, Ian, that side, right? So he had his law license suspended a couple years ago due to disciplinary issues. It sounds like that family did not do a great job in picking an attorney. He also represents Janis, Summer Shiftlet, Melanie, and Zulema. And he had his law license suspended back in 2017. The Arizona Bar Legal Service website says that Mr. Smith represented a client in a criminal matter for a flat fee of $6,500. Thereafter, he failed to adequately communicate with and diligently represent the client for failing to appear for scheduled court hearings and notify his client of hearings. So he was in trouble, apparently. So that's not really a good look. So he was reprimanded in June of 2016. He did it again and was suspended in May of 2017. And then reinstatement was granted a month later. But yeah, like, it's very rare for attorneys of a high caliber to get their shiz suspended. Also, my favorite news of the week, I laughed so hard when this came across Facebook. Justin Lum was told off.
Right? And he was just like, oh, well, I like him a lot.
I do too. I think as far as, and I will take a stand right now, I find with all of the different newscasters, right, who have become kind of personalities in this case, Justin Lum is by far my favorite.
Same. For sure.
But he reached out to interview the Vallow family. You know, they're starting their rounds, of course. Justin Lum is like the Oprah of this case. And he got kind of a nasty reply back. His post says, after multiple attempts to reach out to Melani Pawlowski's lawyer regarding a potential interview, I learned her other family members had done a couple interview. Of course, I want all sides of the story. I reached out to Lori Vallow's sister Summer, who politely referred me back to Robert Jarvis and Garrett Smith. I did not know they represented the family outside of Pawlowski. And he literally got an email that said, I won't read the whole thing, but basically, we do want the family's story to be told and we'll discuss doing so with someone other than you. It's like, burn.
Right. Well, I think it's just because he has been present for so much. And although he reports pretty unbiasedly, but my interpretation is that he is kind of how we feel about it, where it's like, stop this nonsense. Where are the kids? Stop killing people. The end.
Yeah. And Justin took it like a champ. And he was like, I wonder why. And I'll keep reporting the facts and I'll continue to uncover documents linked to this twisted timeline. Just know Lori Vallow's camp didn't want to sit down with me specifically. That's too bad. It is too bad because I would have paid really good money to have Justin Lum in a room with Janis eyeliner Cox.
Well, he would have... we haven't talked about the other interview yet, but yeah, I just want to hear the way he would have handled that interview, because I feel like he wouldn't let them get out of some of the questions like everyone else keeps letting them.
Like the softball questions.
Yeah, well, it could be strategic editing too. You know, maybe they just answer it, no, I'm not going to talk about that, and they obviously would take that out. Who knows? But I feel like he would have done a really good job.
Yeah, I concur. Let's see. Also, random news piece this week. Do you want to talk about the subpoena?
Well, you know, I love my court docs. Oh my gosh. I feel like there's so much this week that I forgot how many court documents I have actually read this week. So this one is just Lori Vallow's attorney, Mark Means, filed a subpoena involving Telmate owned by GTL. And it's just a request for more information. So he's requesting from March 1st to present. Mm-hmm. And the strange thing is she didn't actually get to Madison County Detention Center until the 5th after she was extradited, right?
Right.
So why does he want him before then? It's kind of weird. And again, I'm summarizing because it's a pretty lengthy list of things, but he wants all telephone recorded conversations, telephone call audits for all calls for Lori, a run report. I have no idea what that is. Account info for each person or entity regarding the persons or entity that assessed. Viewed, listened, or operated any call files regarding Lori. Since he says that he wants the duration of access too, I'm wondering if he's just trying to figure out if they actually listened to the whole call or not.
Yeah.
That's just my guess. I'm, again, no lawyer. Just, yeah, he's requesting more information. He's still trying to figure out the recorded conversations.
Which is pretty much irrelevant at the grand scheme of things.
I mean, it's her rights. I get it. And that's just kind of like a leg to stand on. Like, her rights aren't being respected is, I think, just the way that he's going to take it.
I think that someone did mention too that he seems to be going for basically like her rights are violated, and doubling down on that. And they're like, look, she's going to try to get off and say that she had a negligent attorney. Actually did a great deal of research on that, and just so you know, it's damn near impossible unless he pulls a Garrett Smith and doesn't show up to court hearings whatsoever, doesn't file stuff by the deadline repeatedly, things like that. So just so everyone knows, you can feel pretty comfortable that Lori's not going to be able to get any favors done based on her attorney being negligent at all, because he isn't negligent in his actions. He's just making some really bizarre choices.
Right. Super weird. The other thing that we missed this week, and yeah, I think I kind of wish we could go back and post about it, but we did miss Tammy's birthday. So her birthday would have been May 4th.
And she would have been 50 years old. It would have been her 50th.
That's really sad. Her and Charles, I just feel for so much in their families.
So guys, this is where I believe we are going to stop part 1. And then part 2, we will have East Idaho News interview where Nate interviewed Melani and Ian. And then also we will go over in depth Alex Cox's autopsy results.
So again, with his results, I got to speak with a medical professional. And then later this week, we're going to speak with someone that actually has worked in a medical examiner's office. And they'll give us their take as well. So tune in.
Yes, so tune in. And again, Titty Slap, that subscribe button on YouTube. That is going to be our major focus, is putting out more YouTube content, and not just related to Lori Vallow, but other true crime aspects as well.
And it's really fun because we can interact with you guys there too, because as you're listening, you can tell us your thoughts, and it's a lot of fun.
It is. YouTube has actually become my favorite thing.
That and the Patreon only Facebook group has been great. We've talked about the cases. We've talked about all kinds of stuff on there. So that's also been a lot of fun.
It has been a lot of fun. And don't forget, too, that we are putting our full episodes on YouTube. So you have a reason to subscribe. Some people actually stopped listening to the podcast, like say through iTunes or Stitcher, and they've started playing YouTube in the background with our show. So definitely check out YouTube again.
And again, if you want to join our Patreon, it's patreon.com/WeSawTheDevil. On YouTube, it's We Saw the Devil Podcast. Instagram is We Saw the Devil. Twitter is We Saw the Devil. And then our page on Facebook is also We Saw the Devil.
So this is it for part 1, guys. Part 2 will be out shortly. Until next crime.